fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round number 1 of the 2019 Season 3 iRacing V8 Supercars official series. We are starting off things big tonight at the mountain, Mount Panorama, where 31 cars are going to be circulating around this evening. We're going to be bringing you all of that action here on the iRacing Esports Network, proudly presented by SimSpeed TV. And this evening, myself in the commentary booth, joined alongside Ross Rizzo, who is a man who is very familiar with these cars. And as always, Jay Kennedy will be pushing those beautiful buttons that give us these excellent pictures you are seeing in front of you. And Ross, we've got a couple of cars into qualifying right now, and it's going to be a very interesting race here this evening at Bathurst.
Absolutely. We have many drivers who are no strangers to the mountain and definitely are not afraid of it. We've got times in the low 204s already, with Brady Myers on a 204 flat, which is absolutely screaming around here if you know anything about the mountain. So this is going to be a phenomenal race.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just having a look at the times of the top 9 cars at the moment, 0.7 of a second around Bathurst is a fairly small margin, and the top 8 cars are covered by just 0.5 of a second. So we are going to be having an excellent race, especially up the front of the field. But you can see, looking down the order at the moment, the times are not dropping off very much at all. If anyone's within, everyone's within 1/10 of each other here or there, all throughout the grid. And we've got a couple of drivers as well who we expect to see up the pointy end of the field as well. Still yet to set a time. Sam Blacklock is one of those people in his Altus Esports machine who we'll definitely be expecting to see up the pointy end of the field, but he is not currently on track at the moment. Neither is Chris Coxhead, who just disconnected before, had some server issues for Chris, and he's now just coming out of the pits to start his lap, but he's not actually going to have time. Neither will Sam Blacklock. So 2 drivers who have a lot of experience and are good racers, but are going to have to be crawling through this field this evening.
Oh, they will be very exciting to watch from the back. So definitely keep an eye on car number 4 of the Logitech Altus Esports car and Chris Coxhead's Zuva Racing V8 Sleuth Commodore.
Yes, absolutely. But looks like most of our competitors are finishing up a second lap if they've elected to go for one. Jackson Suslin-Harlow puts himself, or actually that was Thomas McMillan, I think. Fantastic effort from Thomas there. Puts himself up into position 3 with a 204.182. Great lap from him. Just got Wayne Burke going to finish his lap up now as well, coming across the line, and his One Performance Racing machine unfortunately does not better his time and will remain on a 204.4 to keep him in 7th at the moment. And Wayne's overdue for a championship, and he needs to start delivering, I think, does Mr. Burke. And 7th at the start of this series in the qualifying is not going to be too good for him he tries to take an official series championship, which I think has eluded him for far too long. Just having a look at a couple of cars rounding the their last corners, as qualifying has now come to an end, and we will run through our grid today. It's 7:15 a.m. track time here, and it's going to be very cold, 22 degrees and rising. But I doubt we'll see the temperatures rise too much more than that. Fairly large pit window today as well, which we'll get into later. It's going to be Brady Myers, though, taking us away from pole position. He has teammate Jackson Susan-Harlow there for company on the first row of the grid. Thomas McMillan, a good job from him in third position. Cooper Webster will start alongside him in fourth. Jack Boyd for Gone Rogue Motorsports will start in fifth position. Corey Preston, saw him getting a bit leery across the top of the mountain, but he was good enough to get one in for sixth. Wayne Burke, as we saw, starting from seventh position with Marlon McMullen there for company with him. Michael Taliancic will start from ninth position, and Brett Loxton will start from 10th.
In 11th place, we have Jordan Ross. Those Evolution Racing Team cars looking very quick this week, followed by Brian Borg and the ever-popular Thomas Hinds for the Sim Racing channel. James McKee for Pursuit Sim Racing in 14th. James Scott, another Evolution Racing Team driver, in 15th. Hayden Dodman for Torque Inc. and recently signed to KRF. Have a good night tonight, mate. Damian Johnson for GRM. Job Stewart for Pursuit Sim Sports, and Guy Leach rounding out the top 20.
And then to finish out our 31 car strong field this evening, Mitchell McLeod in 21st, Greg Sharp alongside him, Christian Smart in 23rd, with Matt Morris in 24th, Richard Aliward in 25th, with David Kidman in 26th. Scott Solosky, we'd expect to see him a bit higher, down there in 27th. And then we have Steve Jansen, Brendan O'Brien, Sam Blacklock, and Chris Coxhead. But the revs are rising here already at Mount Panorama, and those two TTL cars off the lead row are go, and a good start from both of those drivers. Looks like down in fourth or third there, that's Thomas McMillan getting a good start, and will keep the position over Cooper Webster as they all just, and that's a car off in the back. Someone just losing it as they came out of Hell Corner there. That's James Mackey in the Pursuit Sim Racing car. We're going up to the front of the pack. They're going 2 by 2 into turn number 2. Thomas McMillan having to defend a little bit here from Cooper Webster on the initial rotation around this circuit, but good getaway for him, and not coming under too much of a challenge from Cooper at the moment. These guys have to get it cleanly through these first couple of laps, otherwise a small mistake can really cost them a large amount of time. But here's where it starts getting really tricky. Some cars just running a bit wide up into the wall there. A great shot as we see all these supercars coming up the mountain now and coming down up to Brocky Skyline here. And down they come through the S's, down through the Dipper, and down towards Forest Elbow. Everyone getting off to a nice clean start here. And that Gone Rogue Motorsports machine of Jack Boyd, he almost came home with the championship last time out. He's looking for a bit of a stronger performance this season. Finished second in last season. Just needs to go one better. Ahead of that man, behind Thomas McMillan, Cooper Webster, who is our reigning champion, ladies and gentlemen, in the white and blue Logitech G Evolution Racing Team car. But he will have to stay behind Thomas McMillan for a little longer. Nice, it's strange. You wouldn't expect such a quiet opening to a race here at Mount Panorama, but just one small off there for James Mackey. And everyone else has gotten off to a pretty clean start here.
I think there was some willingness at the start of the race. I saw Wayne Burke drive around the outside of Griffin's Bend, which is usually a no-go, but surprisingly, despite being the first lap, got away A-OK. As it looks like we have Thomas McMillan under fire from Cooper Webster as he tries to line him up around the outside. It was a no-go zone this time by Thomas McMillan, holds onto the position.
Yeah, and Cooper trying to push Thomas out of the corner there, trying to get almost a little bit of an undercut as they come back up the hill again. And Cooper's appeared to have some really good pace earlier in the week, but at the moment, just having to sit back there in fourth. And now Jack Boyd in that Gone Rogue Motorsports machine is starting to apply a little bit of pressure as well. He's got Corey Preston tucked up in behind him, who's another man who really needs to get some good results on the board early in the season as he runs a little bit wide and manages to gather it all up. Wayne Burke just sitting behind him, not able to capitalize on anything. And then they've got a several-time champion sitting just behind them in Marlon McMullen. And he's had some strong performances the last couple of seasons, but it's getting a little more rare to see him up on the podium and the top step in this series for McMullen. So hopefully he'll be able to have a bit of a bounce back at some point this season. We're now having a look on board with Brett Loxton as he comes into the chase on the brakes with Michael Taliancic there. Not quite able to make anything work as of yet. And just behind him, Jordan Ross in his ERT machine, looking to have some pretty good pace as well, and might even go for a little bit of a move. Hesitates and pulls back in. Not going to do it this time. Everyone's pretty keen to play it safe at the moment. We often see this at Bathurst. A little bit of a lull in the first half of the race, but as soon as the pits happen and everyone knows it's a race to the end, it becomes an explosion of excitement. Just having a look now at the Velocity sim racing car there of Matt Morris going up the inside of Christian Smart there, and that's a nice little move there for him. Let's see if Christian was able to get back on him. And he was actually, so a little bit of a mistake there for Matt Morris, and Christian Smart will retain that position.
As Scott Solosky rounds him up around the outside of the cutting. That was bold.
Oh, yeah. And who's that in the 21 there? Guy Leach going round the outside as well. So a bit of lost momentum there for Damian Johnston as he was coming up the hill, and Guy Leach didn't need to think twice. He just went straight around the outside. Fantastic move from him. Having a look now back up at Wayne Burke toward the tail end of this train now, although this train's starting to clump up again just a little bit. And he's looking to get past Corey Preston, who's also looking to put a little bit of a move on Jack Boyd up ahead of him. He's started to just fall away a little bit though. That being said, those two TTL cars up front are not running away from anybody at this stage, and definitely not running away from Thomas McMillan, who's going to have a go down into the chase side by side. Who's going to be the bravest under brakes? It will be McMillan, but Jackson's not going to make it easy. Takes a healthy amount of curb there. Oh, and he's had a touch from Webster behind. Are they going to be able to gather it back up? It looks like they will, but that is a massive loss of track position for both of those guys. They're going to lose about 6 spots. So that's big loss of time. And for Jackson, I mean, he's come out of that now fighting side by side with Michael Taliancic, who's 9th. So he's lost 6 to 7 positions out of that. Tragic there for Jackson Suslin-Harlow, and it looks like Taliancic might actually get this done. He's run wide, as has Loxton. Oh dear, this is going to cause all sorts of problems. There's going to be chaos here. They're just finding a little bit of room to move with as they all get single file. See a couple of cars flaring out now. Cooper Webster not down the inside there. There's no room to get past Michael Taliancic, who holds his defensive line in a very commanding way and does not allow anybody to get through. And now Jackson has just been swallowed up by this train of cars behind him, and going around the outside there is Hayden Dodman on Brett Loxton, who just grabs the inside wall there at the cutting. And wow, very explosive little moment for the train there, but everyone's actually come out surprisingly well on the other side, Ross.
Wow, that was a very frantic half a lap. That bold move from Thomas McMillan ended in disaster from behind with Cooper Webster. It looked like it was going to be extremely difficult to chase down those SimWorks TTL Falcons, but Thomas McMillan has absolutely stepped up in that Mega Black racing car and is hunting down Brady Myers. We've definitely got to check the progress of Jackson Suslin-Harlow and Cooper Webster as they fight their way back towards the front of the field where they deservedly belong.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're just having a look on board now with Cooper Webster. He's looking for it's a very opportunistic move there, but unfortunately, I suspect Jackson was probably focusing on other things and didn't quite see that Cooper was there. And that's just a little bit of a racing incident there when you have a couple of cars battling very hard. He's managed to get himself back, Michael Taliancic now as Cooper Webster, and Wayne Burke. Just having a look on Corey Preston there, and Marlon McMullen's actually closed up this gap pretty tightly now as well. Maybe he's seen a little more positions gone his way, and he's now going to clamp down and see if he can get it past these cars ahead of him, but I suspect that he'll probably just want to sit there while these guys up ahead of him have a little bit of a battle. Wayne Burke and Corey Preston, two very feisty drivers, and can easily hold each other up a little too much if they get into too much of a battle here. But what this has done, this has actually put Jack Boyd into third position now. So Jack Boyd for Golden Road Motorsports is sitting in a podium position, and we said he really needed to excel to try and grab a championship. He came second in the championship last time, and that's definitely helping him at this stage.
Jack has certainly stepped up in the last couple of months, especially in the Australian Online Supercar Championship, where he's been very much a star along with the likes of Jackson Suslin-Harlow, as Corey Preston nearly ends his race at the wall heading into McPhillamy. Still hunting down the young Jack Boyd. Oh, and there's a lot of commitment. Wow, look at that for a save from Corey Preston. I wonder if this is a little bit of I guess a bit of the Corey of old, where we've seen this aggression, but we've also seen a little bit of a reinvigoration from Corey from the. Oh, and that's a talking car in the wall. Big damage. Hayden Dodman. Unfortunate. Let's see if we can get a replay brought to you by Modem Simulations and break down what's happened here.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Hayden was doing a great job making up some positions. We just saw him go around, make some good overtakes earlier, and I suspect possibly getting on the power coming out of the... Oh, yeah, and that was a big slide. And wow, pretty amazing. Everyone got through there without much more than a little whack on the quarter panel there for Guy Leach. He was extremely lucky. Let's check this out for an onboard with Guy Leach, and he is going to miss this car by... Oh, good decision. Very nice there from Guy. Good heads-up avoidance there.
I think that is all that experience that Guy Leach brings to iRacing. He's been around for a long time. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I think Guy Leach is... I even remember back to the days when I first started iRacing, and he was one of the guys that I was racing with back in the day. Definitely got a lot of laps under his belt, and that is just one of the ways that he can prove it. Jack Boyd now getting a little bit of a train forming. Brady Myers and Thomas McMillan have run away a little bit up the front here, and the group behind possibly starting to get a little bit impatient here behind Jack. Corey definitely, as you said, looking like he's got a bit of pace in that car. Looking like the Corey Preston of old, who's a man that throws the car around a lot but can often extract quite a lot of pace out of it. We have seen Corey have issues with finishing races though, especially the longer races. And even just getting into the second half of the stints with the tyres, it just seems like he maybe is throwing that car around a little too much at times and starts to fade off in the second half of a stint. So we'll have to see if that's going to be something that affects him this evening. But at the moment, he is showing some positive signs of a good result this evening. And just one driver standing between him and a podium at the moment. Thomas McMillan really wants this race victory, though. You can sense it. And he is closing on Brady Myers. Will he have a little bit of a go? I doubt it, but he's getting closer and closer. He's just setting himself up, waiting for a small mistake from Brady here to try and get past, take the lead of this race. And we were talking earlier about the pit window here. So we've got a fairly wide...
Sorry to cut off you, Zach,
yeah,
but Jack has had a big issue.
Yes, he's been absolutely swallowed up by Wayne Burke, Corey Preston, and Marlon McMullen, and now Cooper Webster is actually going to jump in there as well. And I didn't see the catalyst for that as all. McMullen's going to go for another move on the inside of Wayne Burke. It's going to be 2x2 and a little bit of a rub as they come down Mountain Straight there. Everyone keeping it together, but Cooper Webster, he's trying to make up as much ground as he can because he really feels that he should be at the head of this pack. And the speed would suggest that that is the case for him. McMullen a little bit crossed up on the entry there. And he manages to just keep it all together, and that will allow Cooper Webster through surely as he has the inside line for the cutting here. Marlon going to try and hold it, but that is only going to be good enough to protect the position there from Jack Boyd. Cooper Webster, great driving, and we'll see what happened there to Jack. I'm presuming, Ross, something happened coming out of the chase here.
It was the lightest of touches from Corey Preston. So deep under brakes, just that little nudge right there. It was just enough to unsettle the car and force him to the grass. Fortunately, a much safer rejoin than we saw a couple of years ago, but it was still plenty of action by the time we got to Murray's Corner.
Yeah, it was pretty reminiscent of a real life incident that happened a couple of years ago, but luckily they all come out well on the other side this time. But just shows you how close the margins are between these drivers, that just a couple of meters of braking there made the difference between a car. I mean, how many positions has he ended up? He's lost about 4 positions because of that, all because of just a very, very minor amount of braking there. But they're all pushing on, and Jack Boyd will gladly be able to continue and try and regain some of those positions. Meanwhile, up at the front of the field, Brady Myers and Thomas McMillan, TTL Esports and Mega Black Racing, really want to take victory here today. And McMillan possibly just staying in that slipstream as Cooper Webster's got massive drive out of Murray's Corner, trying to even go down the inside of both Corey Preston and Wayne Burke, but Wayne is going to be the winner. Oh, and Cooper Webster goes up the inside there as Corey just almost ran out of room there, and now we've got 3 very aggressive drivers here. All want the same piece of road. Who's willing to take it? Is it going to be Cooper Webster or Corey Preston? Oh, Corey deep, a little bit wide on the apex there, but everyone carries it through. Mullen pushing Corey up the hill here, and they're all going to be very close to one another. Cooper Webster's going to jam it up the inside into the cutting. That's a great move, but he's got to keep the traction. Round the outside, guys, you can't go 2x2 through here. Someone's going to have to pull out, and it is Cooper Webster as Corey Preston has the favored line and the traction as well to just keep him ahead. But good job there from Wayne Burke, and that's given him a little bit of respite. He can start working his way towards challenging this group up the front, but it's going to take an almighty undercut for Wayne Burke to make up this 6-second gap. And oh, that is a big mistake there from Brady Myers, who's actually clipped the inside wall there at Forest Elbow. We saw some sparks and now some damage to the left-hand front side of that car. So we're just coming up on around the 1/3 race distance now, and our race leader is starting to crumble from the pressure from McMullen here.
I hope someone is in Thomas McMillan's ear telling him to be patient. He has the pace to win this race. Now, who would have thought Thomas McMillan potentially winning an official race? But this looks like the reality. This is a track he is phenomenally good at. And this is why I think he, potentially with my old teammate Forzen Elnabi, will be a phenomenal pairing in the Premier Series endurance races.
Oh, absolutely. But, I mean, it does have to be said, last time I saw McMillan here, he, well, I mean, there's no way to put it lightly. He made a very big mistake trying to, I think it was with Wayne Burke coming through Skyline. And definitely has the pace, but he's got to get the move done for the lead if he's not going to be able to do it in the pits. He does have that option, but will he be able to make it work? We'll also ask that question for Cooper Webster, and yes is the answer as he goes up the inside, but a little bit of a bump there from the One Performance Racing car might see him just checked up a little bit too much for Corey Preston, who goes round the outside of the cutting. That's not going to work though. Now McMullen's going to go 2x2, and we're going to have this conversation again, guys. Come on. Somebody's got to pull out, and oh, McMullen's going to be tight for him, trying to get around the corner and get the power down as well, but he's done a good job to keep it all together. Jack Boyd is not going to enjoy the side that he has in front of him, because one small mistake from these guys could mean race over. Oh my goodness! Marlon McMullen! That was a massive moment for him, as he just caught a little bit too much of the curb there, and very scary moment, and glad that he could keep it all together, because that could have been a very scary moment. Check that out. Oh my God! Amazing car control, and you can tell that this guy has a couple of championships under his belt.
Now, I think he's doing one of either two things. One, grimacing, or B, absolutely grinning from ear to ear after that. That was a phenomenal save, right out sideways, as a very overly quoted commentator would say. As here we go with Brian Borg on Jordan Ross. Deep under brakes into the chase, a little lock-up, but beautifully done. Fantastically committed braking move from Brian Borg.
Yeah,
and Taliancic into the pits, the first of our pitters.
Exactly, I was about to say. So Michael's always the one to pull a bit of an alternate strategy. Usually likes to go long. Today, he's going to go short. We have a couple of other drivers. Brett Loxton, who's surprisingly not challenging as much for the race lead as I would have thought. He's been off the pace this evening, but he's going to try and bring it all back with a bit of a strategy call. Marlon McMullen now going for a move on Corey Preston. Going to go try the long way round into turn number 2, but it is going to have to remain behind Corey Preston for a little bit longer. It's just a bit too hard, especially in these V8s. In a downforce car, maybe round the outside into turn number 2, but in these V8 supercars, you are going to have a big tire advantage or a massive mistake from your opponent to make that work. And Marlon, much wiser to that, and he is going to try to continuously apply pressure all up the mountain here and try and force Corey Preston into a mistake, which is definitely possible. And you can see just how much Corey's trying to just get every little millimeter of road out of that Ford Falcon at the moment.
Oh, another big moment from Corey. He's really throwing everything at this track. So far, the track is forgiving him at the moment, but for how much longer will the mountain let him get away with exuberant driving? So we go to a mountain simulation replay.
Yeah, just having a look here at Job Stewart. Oh, and that is very easy to do there. Just turned in a little bit too early and paid the price massively. And he's going to have some big steering damage on that car. It's going to be very difficult to control. And looks like he's got a... and there's my mate, Sam Blacklock, having a very close moment with Joe, who's managing to just keep control of that car.
Just while we're on the replay, McMullen and Corey bang doors heading into the kink of the chase. Look at the movement under brakes from McMullen. Grabs the curb, which is normally a big no-go, but he somehow kept it together. Look at Boyd on the outside, potentially lining up a move, coming down Mountain Straight, and of course the Simworks TTL Falcon of Jackson Suslin-Harlow trying to recover from that early mishap at the chase.
Yeah, and it looks like he's doing a good job of recovering that gap, but Cooper Webster's done a very good job. He's back up into a podium position. And Jackson has a little bit more work to do thus far. Obviously has the pace in that car we've seen, but just has a little bit more work to do. A couple of cars to get past, and Jack Boyd is not making it easy. You can see Jackson, he got a bit of a nose in there. A little bit of overlap on the exit of the cutting there, and he's trying to force Jack into a mistake. But it's it's the difficult thing about driving around Mount Panorama is you can have a big speed advantage, but coming over the mountain, unless you get a mistake from someone, it can be so difficult to even attempt a move. You kind of have to wait until you're either coming down the hill again or coming, I guess, down Mountain Straight or up the mountain a little bit. It's very difficult to make a move, and especially, as I said, when the car speeds are so close between all of these drivers, and we saw that in qualifying, they are also equally matched. It's very difficult, but they are definitely trying their best to apply the pressure that is required to force someone into a mistake, and Marlon's going to be able to apply a ton of it as he's got some massive overspeed coming down Conrod straight. He's going to go around the outside, which will give him the inside line into the chase, and they're going to have a little bit of a rub maybe. Oh, Jack Boyd's going to get in there too deep, and that is Corey Preston 360 back onto the track. Jackson Suslin Harlow got caught up a bit in that as well. He's going to lose some time, and that is very unfortunate for Corey Preston. No fault of his own there. So we just saw Jack Boyd getting very deep on the brakes, and hard to say if he would have pulled it up either way, but he did get into the back of Corey Preston there, and very unfortunate incident for Corey.
Yeah, Corey was quite buoyed after his result quite ecstatic about his results from the online Premier Series last weekend, but unfortunately that has all come undone, as I believe our leaders have hit pit lane. Thomas McMillan is in the pits.
Yeah, so Thomas McMillan is the pits, as is Harlow, and I think Guy Leach is in the pits at the moment as well. So a couple of drivers who have decided to pit, but the big one is our race, or could be effectively our race leader after this pit stop, Thomas McMillan. We've seen the undercut work very well. Does have to be said though, the tyre drop-off in these early morning conditions is not as great as we usually see in the afternoon races, so the overlap is not as great, but it does still play a massive part in these races, despite the lap times not being that great of a difference. Just having a look now, and Jackson's really having a hard time getting past the Valkyrie sim racing car there, but manages to just get it done before the really technical section of the track. And his teammate Brady Myers out front is having no such issues. Have to see if Brady's going to be coming this time in. Saw most drivers in the earlier races coming in either on lap 10 or around lap 16, but Brady Myers has decided now is the time. He wants to cover himself off from Thomas McMillan, who has already pitted, and it seems like most of our drivers now are deciding lap 13 is the time to do it. Marlon McMillan and Jack Boyd coming in as well, so be interesting to see Thomas Hinz in that sim racing channel there. One of the best looking V8s out on the track, in my opinion, in that sim racing channel car. He's the first car to elect to stay out, and he has some nice clear road ahead of him, and I'm not sure he'll be effectively, actually he is the leader for the time being, I believe. Brady Myers out of the pit, so is he going to get ahead of McMillan? He is, but McMillan already has some heat in those tyres, so he's going to have the advantage for the next lap. But if he's not close enough to Brady, he's not going to be able to make any use of it. It looks like he might just close up in this braking zone here, so it's definitely game on for Thomas McMillan, but this next lap is really the big one. This is what's going to affect his race the most, because he has a little bit warmer tires, a little bit more grip from his Dunlops at the moment, and every corner that goes by, Brady's able to get more temperature into that tire and get it up to temp so that he has the grip. You can just see a little bit of a slide there, and McMillan just running it out to the ragged edge as much as he can. He definitely knows now is go time.
One thing that McMillan doesn't have to worry about as immediately as Brady Myers does is those few cars in front of him who are yet to pit. They could interrupt Brady's rhythm quite dramatically and could present the opportunity that McMillan needs. He's right where he needs to be right now to potentially size up a move at the chase. It's probably it could be now or never for Thomas.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But he's just made a bit of a mistake there. Just grazed the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow. Hopefully he won't have damaged his car because of that, but a little bit of a mistake as he's trying to push incredibly hard right now. But you're absolutely right, Ross. These couple of cars up ahead of these guys could make a massive difference. Could really open up an opportunity for Thomas to get past Brady in the event that they do catch up with these slower cars. Having a look now, that's Michael Taliancic in the background, I believe, just getting through on a couple of cars there as well. Mullen McMullen is trying to make his way through. And that's the 24 car there also of Richard Allywood. Still circulating as well as a few cars are going to go almost into the pit lane for Jack Boyd. So he gets forced down by the Valkyrie Sim Racing car there. And very close racing between all these guys. I think that's Brett Loxton just up ahead of them, or is that Guy Leach? Hard to tell there. That is Brett Loxton. So he's got Jackson Suslin-Harlow just behind him. And then just behind them as well is Sean Thompson in that Valkyrie Sim Racing car. But having a look now for our effective leaders, it's Brady Myers and Thomas McMillan, and you can see the gap is virtually nothing. These guys are putting everything on the line right now, and a little bit of a moment there for McMillan, just spinning the wheels, coming up the hill there, has lost him a little bit of momentum, but both of these guys are pushing incredibly hard to try and maintain the race lead at the moment.
Just looking at the lap times, it looks like the track is actually getting a little bit faster. Looks like Brady Myers just punched in his fastest lap of the race last time. But no, sorry, that was his in lap, and the timing loop captures you a little bit early because of the pit entry. But McMillan's pace behind him in a 2:04.8, which is only just off his fastest lap. They are still pushing as hard as ever and potentially reaping the benefits of an track getting ever faster.
Yeah, well, the temperature hasn't really changed a whole lot, which bodes well for lap times, especially if they get a bit of a wind direction change that gives them a bit of a push down Conrod. It can actually make a very big difference. And the wind does change pretty constantly. I've just been checking it the last 5 seconds, and it is climbing rapidly. So it's just gone up 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers of an hour in a northeasterly now. So it's actually, the wind speed has just doubled. Oh, that's a big moment for Jackson Suslin-Harlow and Brett Loxton, who were racing down into the chase. And Brett has been forced off the track rather unceremoniously there. And Jack Boyd is also maybe going to make an exit off the track. Not quite getting the hard shoulder there from Sean Thompson in the Valkyrie Sim Racing car. As we're just over half race distance now. The shoulders are starting to come out. It was a bit of a soft start. But now that the pit stops are happening and it's a race to the end, people are getting a little more desperate. So we'll just have a look here and see what happened between Brett and Jackson there. And it looks, I'm actually not, I have to see that one from another angle. That's almost looked like Brett was already losing it under brakes by himself there, but there's definitely looks like a bit of a touch from that angle there. Very close racing either way, and unfortunate to see Brett a little bit further down. Yeah, it looks like there could have been just a bit of a rub just in the later part of that braking phase there. And moving more towards the front of the field now, Michael Taliancic, who pitted early, is now up into a pretty good position. He's currently sitting in effectively 5th position, down in 9th at the moment. Oh, everyone's actually pitted now, so just wait for my timing to update. So yes, Michael Taliancic is in 5th position, which is fantastic for him. Starting 9th, he's one of the biggest movers throughout this race, but a man we haven't seen a lot of, who is the biggest mover of the race at the moment. We won't actually cut to that because McMillan is just getting very aggressive now and forced Brady into a little bit of a mistake there, just running a bit wide into Murray's corner. We'll just have a look now at a replay, modem simulation replay of McMullen getting past Michael Taliancic. And looks like Michael was happy to let that one go pretty easily. But I was just about to say, a man who's been on a move, Sam Blacklock, who is currently up 16 positions and is in a big battle at the moment as he's trying to work himself past the Valkyrie Sim Racing car there of Sean Thompson. And he's just picked up, as I was just talking about it, he's picked up another 3 positions as Mr. Blacklock. So he's now up 19 positions into 11th place. A great drive from the Altus Esports driver, and just behind him as well, Evolution Racing Team. And oh, that's a bold move down into turn number 2. That's Thomas Hins going for a move on James Scott there, and a very, very aggressive move there from Hinsey, but makes it work very nicely. And this is a very feisty little pack here. Corey Preston's in there as well, trying to recoup a bit of time. But a lot of drivers in there looking to get a good result, and they're coming up on some more. And I think Sam might have actually... Oh, this is a replay, pardon me, I believe. And look at this, guys. 1, 2, and 3. Round the outside into Hell Corner. Thank you very much, says Sam Blacklock in his Logitech G Altus Esports Ford Falcon there. Great move. And moves himself up into position 11, as we said. The battle at the front rages on. And Brady Myers is still coming under threat. Oh, is that a little bit of a touch on the cutback for Thomas McMillan? Big slide for Brady Myers, who is trying desperately to hold on to the lead of this race. But Thomas McMillan is doing a fantastic job at the moment, keeping that pressure up on the TTL Esports driver.
This has been a remarkable fight all through the field. The top two are absolutely slugging away at it. This battle for the bottom end of the top 10. Now, remembering that there is bragging rights essentially for being in the top 10, it's very committed back there. And one thing that we did unfortunately miss was a big moment from Sean Thompson, where James Scott went around the outside of McPhillamy Park and had to go deep under the brakes into the Estes to finish the move.
Yeah, and looks like both of those drivers have lost a couple of positions. Sam Blacklock, Brett Loxton, Thomas Hins, all moving past those guys. So, a bit unfortunate for them, but good to see the battling raging on hard. We are focusing on our race leading pair, because this has just been relentless for the last 35 minutes. These guys have been lapping lap after lap within a handful of tenths of each other. And that gap has not really extended out more than, hasn't extended out more than a second for pretty much this entire race, except for, I guess, the first couple of laps. We did see a little bit more of a gap there. Thomas had to work a little bit harder, but now he's got the sight of a race victory in his eyes. He definitely doesn't want to let it go, and he's doing everything that he can. Been seeing him rub the walls a little bit up across the top of the mountain, but sometimes you can just rub these walls and get away with it. The margins are very fine though, and you've got to be careful not to unsettle the car too much.
Now, as we've seen all night, they've been flirting with disaster all race long, everyone through the field, and I just wonder if at some point the mountain's going to say, no, I've had enough, and destroy someone's race.
Oh, you wouldn't put it past it. I mean, we've seen it happen so many times. We've seen Brady Myers here on the verge of victory, coming down through the dipper, pulling a gear and watching the engine explode with just a handful of laps to go. As potential people could run out of fuel. This series, you can never count on anything until the flag has fallen and everything is said and done. Because even with just a couple of laps to go, these races have a tendency to absolutely flip themselves on their heads. And last time we were at Bathurst, it was absolutely no different. I mean, these guys could just, I'm gonna touch the metal frame of my rig here in hopes that this doesn't happen. But I mean, these guys could just absolutely take each other out, and Cooper Webster and Wayne Burke could be the two men on the top of the podium, you know? So we'll see how we go. But for the moment, the racing has been very clean, it's been very good. But as you said, these guys are constantly flirting with disaster, and it only takes a moment of uncertainty to absolutely destroy your race here at Mount Panorama. And for the time being, these guys are doing a great job out at the front of the field, and more racing happening further back down in the field. But for the most part, and just have a look at how much Thomas lost out of that big commitment there from Brady Myers, but Tom just got a little bit deep into Forrest's elbow there and now has to sit behind the driver of Brady Myers for a little bit longer. We just saw Brady just getting a little bit of an oversteer moment on the exit there. You can just see how much Thomas came up on that wall there, had to get out of the throttle quite a lot, and he's now dropped back from Brady quite significantly. So just having a look now, this is a replay we have of Scott Solosky in the Trick Sim Sports car as he was coming up the mountain, presumably a rather unfavorable end for him. We'll have to see. Coming into the cutting, looking pretty good, and probably just suffering quite a lot of damage to that car and pulling off to the side and retiring. Unfortunate for Scott. He's had a couple of good times in a V8 Supercar. Unfortunately for him, today is not one of them, as we now look to a little bit further down the field. Brett Loxton and Thomas Tins battling for 11th and 12th position as the battle for getting into the top 10 rages on. Currently, Sam Blacklock is the last driver in the top 10. But we're just having something has happened up the lead of this race. 3 seconds, the gap.
He's run wide he's run wide at turn 2. It was beckoning to happen with how hard he was pushing. He's just caught the grass on the left-hand side of the car, and there is no grip out there at the best of times. So unfortunately, his best chance at the win potentially has just slipped through his grasp there.
Yeah, that was a very big moment. We'll get having a look at the replay now, and he was good to gather it up though. You could have so easily choked and put it in the wall, but he kept his cool and maintained somewhat control of that car enough to the point that he could reclaim it before he made contact with the wall, which is a very good feat indeed. And have a look at these guys, 2 veterans of this series, Greg Sharp and Mitchell McLeod, showing they're still young at heart and definitely having a very... Oh my gosh! Surely that was not Corey Preston. I'm going to put money on it. I didn't see it completely, but if I had to pick one person in the field to be going upside down across the top of the mountain, Corey would have his name all over my bet. Let's have a look. It's not. It's David Kinmond in, I think, the Pursuit Sim Racing car there. Let's have a look and see what happened to him. And... Oh, yeah. Surprisingly, he carried some good speed. And how good do those sparks look in the in the iRacing graphics engine there? That was a pretty cool looking accident. Unfortunately though, for David Kinman, that is going to be a very unfortunate ending for his race there. And just going back now to 8th and 9th position with Sam Blacklock in the Logitech G Altus Esports machine, now up 20 positions, looking to make it 21 and to propel himself a little bit further inside the top 10. Lap times suggest that he will have no issues of doing that. 0.7 of a second was the difference between him and Brian Borg the last time around, and he was not that much slower, or he was actually a lot faster than Jack Boyd up ahead of him as well. So more positions to be had for Sam with 8 laps remaining. But Mitchell McLeod has not turned the wick down at all, still pursuing Greg Sharp with a great amount of intent and looking for a wider line through the cutting. That'll give him a straighter drive up the mountain. You can see the amount of traction that he has compared to Greg, but unfortunately the track's just a little too narrow there, and this corner far too dangerous to be able to going side by side. Pretty much this entire part of the track is a no-go zone in terms of 2x2 until you maybe get to about here, and then you'd even still be pretty crazy to do that, as Greg Sharp just has a little bit of a, maybe tap the wing mirror on the wall there, a couple of sparks coming off, but good healthy little battle between 2 seasoned veterans in this series.
Yeah, Mitch with only maybe 2 laps older tyres. No, 2 laps. Nope, they pitted on the same lap. So very even Stevens, but I'm sure our director would love to tell us how many minutes of practice Mitchell McLeod put into tonight. I'm sure he can count it on one hand. But here he comes.
Less than 0, yeah.
As he has a go, coming into the chase. Oh, textbook maneuver. Straight down the inside, no dramas there. Greg was kind enough to give him plenty of space, knowing that he was pretty much done there. Still illegal from Mitch, still pushing, but he should have that done and dusted.
Oh, Greg's never really, he doesn't like letting it go, does Greg? And if he thinks he still has a shot at it, he'll give it a red hot one. Unfortunately, though, not able to make the cutback on that one. Having a look now up at Wayne Burke and Marlon McMullen, who are fighting fiercely for 4th and 5th positions at the moment. Marlon's been charging through this field a little bit, put on some pretty good moves. Wayne also up 3 positions from his starting position, as is Marlon. So these guys started front to back in on the grid, and they are now front to back on the track, looking to fight it out for 4th. And Wayne Burke has been looking very strong throughout this race. It's been a bit quiet for him the last couple of laps, but Marlon now joining him for company and applying a good amount of pressure here. But Wayne Burke in that One Performance racing car, very cool customer and very difficult to get past at the best of times. Marlon McMullen, though, a man with lots of experience, several Supercars championships under his belt, and looking for a way past at the moment, not quite able to do so. But coming down Conrod Straight here, he's got a lot of speed. Maybe go for a move down the inside into the chase. Didn't leave a lot of room on the crossover, but between these guys, that's the way they like it. Nice and close racing, but it's going to be a pretty standard, easy move there for Marlon McMullen, who moves himself up into 4th, and a big moment for Wayne as he was trying to possibly go for a little bit of a cut back on that one. Will not be able to do so. Having a look now at Mitchell McLeod, who we're being told is in the fence, and that would probably be attributed to his 0 minutes of practice, I would suspect. That being said, he's been doing a good job for the last 45 minutes, and unfortunately, that's not an accident you'd like to have in real life, ladies and gentlemen. We thank iRacing with providing us with the simulator so that no one has to make a mistake like that in real life, because that would have been a very painful one. And luckily for Mitchell there, just a bit of a bruised ego for at one time the world's greatest sim racer. But having a look now to Sam Blacklock, who has just had a bit of a moment on the entry into turn number 2, getting around Brian Borg there. He will make that move stick. Oh, and that was a very strange incident there between the two drivers of Sam Blacklock and Brian Borg there. Looks like Brian was maybe trying to let Sam down on the inside and just turned a little bit early there. Have to have a look. So Brian got some great traction coming out of the exit of the corner there. And yeah, it looks like he's just turned in a little bit too early there and has just clipped the rear of Sam's car. And unfortunately for Brian, that's put a little bit of a sour note on what has otherwise been quite a good race for the Premier Esports Series team driver.
Yeah, absolutely. But what that's done is also in this, there's a crazy battle going on outside of the top 12. Now for 11th, headed by Sean Thompson. These guys, you could barely fit a blanket over them, but now it looks like it's split out a little bit more. But Corey Preston, who we know is on a bit of a recovery drive, is keen for a move on Brett Loxton, whose second half of the race hasn't quite gone to plan for the Zuba Racing driver.
Yeah, I don't even think the first half of the race went too much to plan for Brett. He started in 10th position, which is a little lower than we'd expect for him. He's been pushing the envelope in terms of championships the last couple of seasons, and we've often seen him up in a podium position. Got his first race victory in the broadcast race as well last season, so definitely a man who would expect to be a little further up the order than 13th, and hopefully next time he comes out he'll have to have a better result. Cooper's catching Thomas McMillan though, which is an interesting prospect in the remaining 5 laps of this race. He's only got 5 laps, but the gap is coming down at a rate of about half a second to 7/10 of a second a lap. So it's well, we said it's not over until it's over, and that is absolutely the case for Thomas McMillan and Cooper Webster. And Thomas was obviously very shortly ago just behind our race leader Brady Myers, challenging for victory, but he's now dropped off the pace a little bit after a small mistake. And reigning series champion has now got the eyes fixed on the driver of Thomas McMillan, as we're having a look now with Jack Boyd, who...
Cooper has just hit the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow. I think he's gotten away with it, or is that some slight left hand down am I seeing?
I'll have to have a look in the car there. Looks like it's still pretty straight. Seems to be going okay for the time being, but he did have a little bit of rub on the exit of Forest Elbow there. So we'll just see with Cooper Webster. He's still closing in that gap nicely from the live timing that we're getting at the moment. We'll see how this lap looks. So Thomas McMillan comes across the line a 206.1, and Cooper Webster has gone and done a 205.3. So the speed is most certainly still there. Fastest car on...
Sorry to interrupt. There was a collision between Jack Boyd and Thomas Hinz coming into the chase.
Oh dear. We'll see if we can get a modem simulation replay of that one for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So Thomas Hinz pursuing Jack Boyd, having a look down into the chase here, down the inside, late on the brakes, and ooh, hard to tell from that angle. Looks like Hinzy could have just gotten a little bit deep there. Well, this will probably paint a better picture for us of what just happened there. And coming down to the apex of the corner, he's a little bit wide at the apex there, but not dramatically. I think a bit of just a racing incident there between those two guys. Unfortunate for them both, because they've lost a bit of time to their competitors, but gladly they are still both circulating out on track and challenging for positions inside the top 10, which is great to see. Meanwhile, up at the front, the gap is closing still fairly dramatically for Cooper Webster, and the man who it is dropping to is Thomas McMillan. Again, on this lap, it's been about half a second so far, but he's got a lot of ponies underneath the bonnet of that Evolution Racing Team car. They've had a bit of a tune-up before this race, and that Mega Black racing car is just suffering a little bit. Lost about 2 or 3 tenths there, just down Conrod alone, and you can see how committed Cooper is on the brakes, trying to gather everything up. A little bit of oversteer on the mid-corner coming out of the chase there. So once again, it looks like it's going to be a very quick lap here from Cooper Webster. The 206.1 once again, and a 205.7 for Cooper, so not fast enough for the time being. 3 laps to go. He's going to have to pick up the pace a little bit more if he wants to bring that gap down, but he is starting to get into that draft range as well.
It looks like further back in this battle for the top 10, that earlier incident for Thomas Hinz has left him vulnerable to old team boss Sean Thompson, who is having an amazing run, just staying out of trouble, has made his way up from 17th to 11th, and is probably having the time of his life wrestling that Commodore around as he chases Thomas Hinz for a potential top 10 in the soft field.
Yeah, he's doing a great job at the moment, is Sean Thompson, and especially considering his car number, he's definitely performing very highly. Sitting there in 11th position on car number 30. A little bit of oversteer on entry there into turn number 2, but he actually made the apex quite nicely. Maybe it was some planned oversteer there. Cooper Webster still pushing as hard as ever, and he really has to nail this downhill section so that he can get into the draft, and that will possibly get him another 2 to 3 tenths of a second on this lap if he can sneak himself into that range. I'd say down Conrod, you probably need to be within 1.2 to get that advantage, and he's just within it. So they punch a pretty big hole in the air to these V8 supercars, large pieces of metal, And you can see that gap down there, 1.1, already half a tenth reined in down the straight. That's a tenth and a half. It's probably going to reach nearly close to 2-3 tenths. And you can see that gap now within a second. Oh, and a big slide. Nicely done. Carried some great speed through the chase there. Clipped the curb really nicely and just carried the slide through the corner. Very nice driving there from Cooper Webster. And just 2 laps remaining to try and take away second position from Thomas McMillan, who's just starting to fade a little bit in the last page of this race. And Cooper Webster smashes out a 2:05.3, and that is the performance we need to see for an overtake within these last couple of laps.
And now he's got the benefit of the draft coming up the mountain as well as going down it. But the way we saw Cooper take that chase, I don't think we need any more evidence that these are qualifying laps from Cooper. These aren't race laps anymore. He is gunning for those low 5s to get back into second place.
Yeah, and there is no one else really even remotely close to going that fast either. Pretty much every other driver other than Brady Myers, our race leader, and Jackson Suslin-Harlow are lapping, and Sam Blacklock are all lapping in 2:06s. So there's only 4 cars at the moment lapping in the 2:05s, and Cooper Webster is by far the quickest of all of them. Half a second now is the gap. It's going to be very close as they get to the bottom of the hill here into Forest Elbow. Look how much he's closing in the braking zone. It's all about the smoothness and about the momentum and about the balance of the car coming down the hill. And right now, Cooper Webster has all 3 of those things absolutely tied up. And he's got great traction coming out of the final corner as well. 0.466. Have a look at that. Watch that number just absolutely plummet as he starts to chase in on the rear of the Mega Black racing car. That gap is going to be virtually 0, and they might even be side by side as they come out into the braking zone. Big defensive move from Thomas McMillan forces Cooper into an awkward position, and he's going to have to go for the good traction out of the exit of the chase. And Thomas McMillan is going to defend very hard here. There's only 2 laps to go. What are these guys going to do? It's very defensive from McMillan. And Cooper Webster is actually just going to tuck back in. He knows he's got 1 lap more to do it. Is he going to be able to make it work, or do we actually have 2 laps? What a pleasant surprise. Excellent. So I've miscalculated the length of the race, and gladly, we'll have an extra couple of laps, and that's Jack Boyd, and it's all gone very wrong for him. At the exit of the chase there, we'll just see if there was a bit of contact on the modem simulation replay. Oh, big contact into the entry of the corner, and then at the apex as well. Yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of an awkward one there. I mean, they probably both could have been a little kinder to each other in a couple of regards there, but rubbing is racing, and they were certainly rubbing a little bit there, but back up to position number 2, and you can see the pressure now. Cooper Webster is mounting on Thomas McMillan in that Mega Black racing car as they come across the top of the hill here, and Cooper just running every corner to the mirror and a little bit more in some cases. Last time by, the pace is starting to drop off, but he is in position now to make a move on McMillan, and coming down the hill right now, he's definitely within range. Bit of a mistake there as we come down into Forest Elbow. Now he's going to have to go for a big exit, nice and smooth on the power, much tighter line coming out, which means he's straightened it up and we'll get a big exit, but he's going to be a bit far back this time, I think, Ross, to make an overtake here.
The exit looked good, and the slipstream looks even better than last time. It could be another mirror of what we just saw. He's right up behind him now. It took him to the braking zone last time. Now they're side by side. Around the outside, this is going to be bold. Is he going to hold it there? Oh, there's contact! And off he goes. Oh, the rejoin was also very committed, but they press on anyway. Now, does Cooper need to serve a slowdown from that? I'm going to say no, because that's as committed as he's been into Murray's, as the crisscross to start the final lap.
Oh, man, this is going to be big between these guys. No love lost. Look at the amount of room they're giving. It's virtually nil. Cooper Webster, he probably wanted a little bit less overlap there so he could cut under a little better. but Thomas placed the position. He placed his car very nicely on the track there to make it work. Now Cooper knows he's not going to be able to do anything into turn number 2 here unless he goes super committed on the brakes, and McMillan's not going to let the inside line go. Oh, there's a bit of a rub. No. He's just kept it all together within the boundaries of the circuit. He hasn't fallen back too far. He's still going to have an opportunity on this lap to make it work once again, and I'm sure he's very calm right now. I'm sure he's not fuming under that visor at all, but he is going to have to keep it all together for just a few more corners. Otherwise, he's not going to have an opportunity to get the move done. Running it very wide. Oh my goodness, a little bit of oversteer there, and that actually wasn't ideal for the next corner. You can see he's lost a little bit of ground there, but he's still pushing immensely hard. Is Cooper Webster down the mountain, through the S's, down through the dipper now, and he made up good ground there. Just a couple of corners to go for them here at Mount Panorama. There's always an exciting finish to these races, and Brady's had it pretty cruisy out the front, but Jack Boyd has had another moment to pretty much end his day on an unfortunate note. Cooper's coming, but is it going to be enough? It's going to have to be immense in the braking zone, and McMillan is not going to shy away from a bit of a bump here, I don't think. It's going to have to be very committed. Round the outside for Cooper Webster. Surely not, and it is not the case. And no. Oh, good driving from both of those guys. And Brady Myers, pardon us, Brady, for not catching that, but excellent drive from the TTL Esports driver. And it looks like it is going to be McMillan who just did not let Cooper Webster pass. An iron shield was put up by the driver of Thomas McMillan there. Couple of drivers coming across the line now. Michael Taliancic, good result for him. 7th position. Sam Blacklock, 22 positions in one race. I'm sure we could probably just view an onboard for him and be very entertained. And James Scott, Thomas Hins, just been to the line by James Scott there, and Brett Loxton was trying to get in there as well. Nice healthy finish from a lot of these drivers, and Hinsey having a little bit of a look around the Evolution Racing team car after the race there. Nice racing there from a lot of guys. So we're just getting a modem simulation replay of Brady Myers, your race winner here for round 1, season 3, 2019, ladies and gentlemen, at Mount Panorama Racing Circuit. A fantastically controlled race from the TTL Esports driver, and coming home with a commanding victory of over 13 seconds from Mega Black Racing's Thomas McMillan. An excellent defensive drive in the last couple of laps against Cooper Webster, who did a fantastic job to recover the unfortunate incident that he had earlier in the race. Marlon McMillan did a good job to get himself up into 4th. Wayne Burke got up a couple of positions and came home with a top 5. Jackson Suslin-Harlow would have hoped for a better race. Started 2nd, ended 6th after early dramas. Michael Taliancic for Pursuit Sim Racing came home the strong 7th. Sam Blacklock, as we said, 22 positions he made up during that race and comes home in 8th position for Logitech G Altus Esports. A fantastic drive. Have to see if we can get a couple of onboard laps to upload to Sam. It would have been a very interesting ride indeed. Sean Thompson for Valkyrie Sim Racing came home in 9th, and James Scott just pipping Thomas Hins at the line for a final top 10 position.
Wow, I can see less than a second separating 9th to 12th at the line, and the first person to miss out on that top 10, Thomas Hins from the Sim Racing channel. Then we've got Brett Loxton for Zuva Racing, Corey Preston, he was a constant highlight reel tonight with some committed driving tonight. Then we have Chris Coxhead for V8 Sleuth Esports. Damian Johnston, a quiet race from Gone Rogue Motorsport, up 3 positions. Jordan Ross for the Evolution Racing team, unfortunately down 5 positions. He's normally quite quick around here, so not quite his race. Now, Jack Boyd, what a race from him. Probably one he would like to forget, but down from 5th down to 17th. Then we have in 18th position, Greg Sharp from Stealth Sim Force. Then Christian Smart, another quiet race for the Gone Rogue Motorsport driver, and Steve Jansen rounding out the top 20.
And then we've got the B-man, Brenton O'Brien, team boss at Evolution Racing Team. Didn't get to see much of him in the 31, but was definitely sitting around there, plodding around, and good to see him in the main split as well. Coming home in 21st, Richard Aylward for ANZ Motorsport coming home in 22nd. Then we had the first of our drivers, unfortunately, who were not on the lead lap, James Mackey for Pursuit Sim Racing. Guy Leach, after a couple of nice slick moves earlier in the race, unfortunately, did not see the finish of this one. We then had Brian Bork for Premier Esports Racing Team, who had a unfortunate incident later in the race, putting him out of contention. David Kinmond as well. Mitchell McLeod, Scott Solosky, Job Stewart, Matt Morris, and Hayden Dodman did not see the checkered flag this evening. And I also wanted to say well done to Chris Coxhead, another big mover of this race, 17 positions. He started pretty much alongside Sam Blacklock on the grid and did a fantastic job making up many positions as well, and would expect nothing less from Chris, who is a fantastic racer, not always on the pace, but definitely one smooth at getting around other cars. It's been an absolutely fantastic race this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a pleasure bringing you all of the action from this evening's race. We will be back once again on Monday night for round number 2 of Season 3 2019 of the iRacing V8 Supercars Official Championship, which will be hosted from my home track, Phillip Island. Always a very interesting track to see these V8 Supercars at, as always. And we have plenty of other action on the SimSpeed TV network as well, and also on the iRacing Esports network. Big notable one this weekend would be the Watkins Glen 6 hour, which is going to be an extremely interesting event. And Tuesday night on the on SimSpeed, we have the Dirt Night, which is always good. Always love seeing the sprint cars out there smashing the dirt around the place. And then on Saturday, we have the Majors series as well on SimSpeed TV, which is always interesting, seeing different drivers in different cars every week. This week it will be the Indy cars at Belle Isle, which I can imagine is going to be nothing less than fantastically fun chaos. I have driven that car combo before, and it is very interesting to say the least. But from all of us here at SimSpeed TV and the iRacing Esports Network, we do thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much to Ross Rizzo for joining me up in the commentary booth this evening, and Jay Kennedy for pressing all those fantastic directors buttons. If you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network and all leave a like on the video as well. But from me, Zach Hanlon, that's all we have here for you this evening. We'll look forward to bringing you the action next time from Phillip Island.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness! Half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?